dear students. Now for today's video I have selected a very interesting topic, and you might be wondering that what we are going to talk about today. Are we going to talk about some geometry? Are we started saying about width versus depth. Now what I mean by width and what I mean by depth, I'll try to explain it to you, and with this explanation I hope you will be able to get a perspective on how you should be preparing and how you should be studying in your own life, and how you should be planning your career in total. Now what I today see is that today we are living in a world which seems to value and reward width. Let's see, the number of friends you have on social media, number of followers you have on Instagram, number of people who like your photographs, number of people who like your videos. That is like width. So somehow we feel that there is an instant reward to the width, that the number of people who you are connected to. But God forbid if you have a problem today, you have actually those 3 people or 2 people to reach out to, that is depth. So what I feel today is that we are looking at an era where we are superficially or instantaneously valuing the width, but we are forgetting that the real value is created by depth. Let me explain it to you. Now we are all today familiar with the word called as FOMO. What is FOMO? Fear of missing out. Now I see this in all of us today. That is, we all have this fear of missing out on something. I see this in students as well. Like a lot of students, when they are preparing for a competitive exam, this FOMO is always on their mind. And what happens is that although they are following one resource, they are studying in one resource, they would get a photocopied of notes of another resource. They would pirate the videos of another one, and they would look at try to find out another one, kind of accumulate the width. Now the problem here is, when we try to accumulate the width, each accumulation is going to take some time out of your preparation strategy, and what happens is that you lose out on the opportunity to go deeper into one particular resource. And I again I would like you to know this, and I'm sure when you hear all educators on the entire of the YouTube channels and social media, they will all talk about depth of engagement. Everybody would want you to say that please follow what we are doing in toto, rather than piecemeal dividing your attention everywhere and not giving your due attention to one particular program. That is width and depth in studies. Similarly, look at see, if you again look at the scenario from a particular subject's point of view. Suppose you are reading one subject. Okay, you're reading one subject, but you are trying to do some questions from here, some from here, some from here, some from here, because you're looking at multiple resources. Now you have a width of content, but no depth in the entire understanding. Now why all this is so relevant in today's scenario? In the last year's NEET PG exam, they converted the exam into a lot of thinking and reasoning and clinical vignette style of paper. And that is the future of the PG medical entrance exam in India, with the next looming at the corner now. So we need to have depth of understanding rather than width of understanding. What do I mean by this is, suppose you do not know about 1 or 2 rare syndromes, but you have the depth of understanding about how to go about a case in a respiratory illness, how to go about a case in a cardiac illness, and you have that depth. Now depth means that when I look at a patient with cardiac disease, I'm able to think what is happening, and then I am able to correlate into the anatomy of it, the physiology of it, and the treatment modalities. I'm able to go deeper. Now what is happening today in the world is, everyone is kind of valuing the width on a superficial manner, but when we go deeper, we know the real value is in people who create more value, who bring value to the system, like doctors who are able to bring value into work they are doing. And that is where the depth becomes more important here. But then why do people go for width? I have 2 explanations. One is that the width gives you that instant gratification. Like I'm say I have 1 lakh followers here, so that is the width of my followers. But are they real relationships? So same holds true for business today. A lot of people talk about networking and building networks, but then I again would say a smaller network with more depth of engagement has more value than a large network with no engagement. So and similarly, you would again, if I take it into a more personal note on a relationship basis also, what would you value more, width of relationships or depth? Like do you want to be you have multiple friends, or you want people who are really engaged to you? So the answers become clear when we start analyzing the scenario, and when you start understanding the scenario. So what I believe is that in today's time, the problem is no longer the lack of resources. So that was once upon a time, like once upon a time before the the internet era, even before the print era, when we were not printing books, nothing. So initially the problem was the lack of resources. Like for example, when I was studying in my medical school, now I had only one book with me or two books, and those are the resources that I have to find out my answers from. But today, the lack of resource is not a problem. Today, you have resources, and you have a lot of free resources, paid resources, subscriber-based resources. You have so many resources with you. The problem here is there's so many resources. There are so many resources that, actually speaking, you end up wasting a lot of time juggling between them. Same as like it happens in the entertainment industry as well. Like once upon a time we had only Doordarshan and Mahabharata and Ramayana to watch, but today you have Netflix, Prime, and so on and so forth. I don't even know the channels. But truthfully speaking, if I ask you today, what you do most of the time is you're actually shifting channels, trying to find out what to watch, and actually you sleep by the time you decide what to watch. So what has happened here? The entire challenge today is plethora, and that plethora is actually causing, is taking away a lot of our time, which could have been spent building the depth. I hope I've been able to articulate this to you, because I believe if this is one message that I want to give to all the youngsters listening to me today, please seek depth. Please, what is happening is that somebody comes and tells me that a youngster comes and tells me, sir, I'm doing this, I'm also doing this, I'm also a part of this. So I said, that's good. So when you start up a business, he says, sir, I have a business of this, I have a business of X, Y, Z, and all those things are unrelated. And he is trying his best to impress me. And I said that, I think none of them is working properly, because if it was working properly, you would have no time for everything else. How can you be into one side into an accounting business and one side into another business? You could not do justice to them. But somewhere what happens is that initial gratification or instant gratification comes with the width, and that is where we all seek width in everything. I believe in all those width, so what has happened today is that a youngster comes to me, he says that he wants to become an entrepreneur, and I ask him, what skills do you feel you have to do? He says, I have this, I know this, I know this, I know. So I said, no, what is your core competence? There's no answer. So I feel that even in our studies, life, relationship, whatever we're looking at, the challenge is the balance between the width and the depth. After you have reached the sufficient width, you have to stop accumulating more width and you have to go for more depth. Let me explain it in a better way here, because what I've seen is that a lot of students, like even you might have heard of this story in many years back. It was it came on Doordarshan also as a program. I don't know if you saw it or not. There's this story of a king who wants to reward somebody, and he says that you start running from this point, and by the time the sun sets, if you come back, that much land will be yours. and the man keeps accumulating width. He keeps running, he keeps running, he keeps running, and never comes back and never gets anything. So, same applies in your studies. I've seen a lot of children, what they do is they keep accumulating stuff, accumulating. It all feels good because you're accumulating things, you're getting photocopied, you're getting, you're downloading, and everything is happening. But what happens is in the last 2 months, where you should have actually gone deeper into what you have to revise more and more in the last 1 month or 2 months. And instead of that, you start accumulating. So, I believe that it's a very, very important thing to understand in today's world, that, it's okay to, go wider to a level, but then you seek depth. And today in the real world, so let's come out of the virtual world here. So there's a virtual world, there's a real world. There's a virtual world which, rewards width massively, which says, oh my God, I have 1,000 likes on my photograph. Oh my God, I have 100 followers and all this. So there's a virtual world which values width. But in the real world, you seek that one person appreciating your photograph. You seek, the doctor who is skilled enough into, to manage the case right now, rather than, to know so many things. So once you reach the sufficient width, please seek depth. It's like, it's tricky. It's not easy. I totally understand. I can hear you say that. So how do I decide that I've reached sufficient width? But it will come to you. You get to know. Like, for example, I've seen some of the colleagues that I have worked with, some of the seniors that I've worked with. I have seen some of them, after reaching to a certain width, they went deeper into one. Like some of my seniors, that they were doing a lot of, like in radiology, they were doing a lot of modalities. They were doing CT reporting, MR reporting, ultrasound. Then I saw one of them, he got only into obs ultrasound, obstetric ultrasound, and he gradually built up a big name into that particular subdomain. And so another of my friend, he went into musculoskeletal MR and he focused more on it. So after you reach a certain width, there's a lot of value to be created by going into depth. That holds true for work, that holds true for relationships, that holds true for your study. Now, when I talk about relationship here, again, I would want you to know that one of the reasons that today, I talked about it in, multiple of my posts as well in the past, that one of the reasons is that, we are living in a generation of instant gratification. We need results instantly, and true relationships, true work, true career rewards, they don't happen instantaneously. So if you put up a picture, you get 100 likes instantaneously, that's okay. But in real life, a relationship would be requiring more cultivation, more work to build up the depth. Similarly, in studies, to get a great rank, to top in the exam, you need depth of understanding, not just the width. But sometimes when we become accumulators, now, especially when we are talking about the postgraduate level, let's understand it further. Like suppose you were in class 4th or in class 5th in school, accumulation would be the key here, because some children know about only 5 things, some children know about 10 things. That's good. But when we reach to higher and higher levels, you become a doctor, you have to do a postgraduate exam, or an engineer has to go for MTech or PhDs. At those levels, how you understand those concepts, the depth becomes more important. And to me, when I look at any person, I believe that any youngster who comes to me and says that, sir, what should I do? And I say, build up your core competence first. Everything else, you can, acquire on the way, but there should be a core competence. There should be depth somewhere. I believe, So a lot of people, they, somehow, we keep looking at things in a wrong way. I feel that sometimes children come to me and say, sir, my biggest, I got this email, sir, that I'm a college dropout and starting a business. So I feel it's become fashionable to say that I'm a college dropout, and so bring your core competence into the forefront rather than saying that I'm a college dropout. College dropout, so not every college dropout would become Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. It's like get perspective here. So it's not your achievement that you're a college dropout right now. I totally disagree with it. Then it should not be the front line of your introduction to anybody. So I feel that your core competence, your depth that you bring to the table, the value that you create in a relationship, in your work, in your study would pay you more dividend. It will, stand on to you. Like if you are having depth of skills as a physician, as a doctor, as a surgeon, nobody can take it away from you. It would be your legacy. It would stay with you. It would stay with the people. It would stay with the people who come in contact with you. It will stay. It would be your mark on the universe. So the one way to leave a legacy is to do work with full engagement and to value more depth, create more depth in everything that you do. You would create more valuable relations, more valuable results in your exams. And please, seek to deliver value in whatever role you find yourself in. So if you find yourself in a role like a student, you have to deliver value by seeking to understand. Now, sometimes, on this channel, I see some student would comment, sir, don't you think studying for the exam is so boring? So why do you think you're studying for an exam? Why can't we change the perspective into understanding that you are trying to understand medical science? One of the outcome here is to get a good score in the exam, but the long-term perspective has to be to become a good doctor. So what do you think good doctors are? Good doctors are people who have depth in their knowledge, width in their wisdom. Okay, so they are wise in the wisdom is more wider, but the knowledge is deep. Their skills they are deep in skills, deep in knowledge, wide in wisdom, with empathy to the student, to the patients, and they are able to bring a lot of value to the system. And that is what you need to seek to become. So skills, we need to have deeper and deeper skills. We need to have deeper and deeper knowledge. And then while wisdom has to be more wider, that you are able to see the things in a broader perspective, holds true. So I believe that we have today touched upon a debate, and I don't want to give you a conclusion here because there's no conclusion here. I just want you to audit your life today. Start thinking about what are you seeking from it, and start dividing your goals into wide and deep. And then you don't want to become a jack of all trades and master of none. You need to kind of find out the depth somewhere and then make it your primary task in life. Everything else will fall into place. This is I believe. And I believe this is a broad principle which can be applied to not only to your studies, it can be applied to everything in life. Seek depth, seek engagement, seek a relationship that matters, seek work that you really like to do, seek to be the bestest possible in it, not just a superficial jack of all trade kind of a person. And please, whenever you study, seek to create value. And even when you choose your study resources, please look at having a deeper engagement with one resource rather than a width engagement with multiple resources. That usually you end up wasting time because you don't have a depth relationship with any of them. I wish you all the best. I hope this helps you to understand and build up your perspective.